The best exercises for lowering your blood pressure are wall sits and planks, according to the Mayo Clinic. So what you do is you just take these exercises, start out with about 20 seconds and build up to 2 minutes. If you only want to do those 2 exercises, then just simply don't watch the rest of the video. Just go ahead and get on with it. I mean, it's wall sits and planks. It's not rocket science. I'm going to give you how many sets to do, how many reps to do, and the time frames that you should be doing it. Now first, let's talk about wall sits. We're just going to assume that a person has never done this before, they're very out of shape, and they have high blood pressure. So you're going to start out doing this in a way that's not super strenuous, but strenuous enough so that you can benefit by lowering your blood pressure. You simply lean up against the wall, keep your legs about 60 degrees. That's going to make it so that you're contracting the quadriceps and your calves and your glutes in order to hold yourself up against the wall without too much strain. It's these isometric exercises that really make a difference in lowering the blood pressure. Now, as you get stronger at this, you want to start to lower your body down so that your legs are about 90 degrees. This is going to make it much more difficult, but more effective as you get in better shape. You can start with 10-second holds. So you would do this for 10 seconds, stand up, walk around a little bit, rest, and then do it again for 10 seconds. And you're going to do 4 sets of those 10 seconds. Now, as you get stronger, you would simply increase the time. So you're always going to do this 4 times, but you'll do it for longer and longer. So as time goes on, you may be able to do it for 20 seconds each time you do it. And then 30 seconds. You want to build up to 2 minutes. Now, here's the important part. Always breathe. Make sure that when you're doing isometric exercise that you're not holding your breath. You want to be letting the air in through the nose and out through the mouth during the actual exercise. Now let's talk about a plank. Now, I'm assuming that someone has never done this before. They're out of shape. They have high blood pressure. How do they get started? Well, it depends on the angle of your body of how hard a plank can be. Now, if you're on the ground, a plank is very difficult. If you're up against the kitchen counter, a plank is not so difficult. So to start, I would recommend just go up against the kitchen counter, lock your elbows, and get into that 45-degree position and tighten your abdomen. This is essentially a plank up against the kitchen counter. And you're gonna hold this position for 10 seconds, and you're gonna do it 4 times. That's 4 sets. As you get stronger, you can do it for longer and longer. If you can build up to 2 minutes, that's great. But once you get to 2 minutes, you're going to need to lower your body down in order to get a different angle, a lower angle. So you may put your hands up against the bed or a chair. Then you start over again. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. You build up so that you can do 4 sets of 2 minutes, eventually graduating to the ground where you're on your elbows and holding this position for 2 minutes for 4 cycles. Do these exercises daily for 12 weeks and monitor your blood pressure every week. You're going to be shocked at how well your blood pressure numbers go down. So now, let's take it up a notch. Let's go into the details of what we're actually doing, why this works, and then formulate an exercise program that involves this type of exercise for the whole body, getting you even greater results. These 2 previous exercises that I showed you, a wall sit and a plank, are called isometric exercise. And what that means is I am in a position where I'm contracting the muscles, but my joints are not moving at all. This is different than an isotonic or a dynamic exercise where the joints are actually moving. Think of lifting weights. If you're lifting a weight and you're just holding the weight in one place, that's an isometric exercise. If you're lifting the weight and moving up and down, that is an isotonic exercise. Isometric exercise are a viable option to improve your cardiovascular health. Now, as a doctor of chiropractic, I treat a lot of patients by trying to improve their health. And if someone has high blood pressure and they're really out of shape, this is what I recommend. But interestingly enough, when people have connective tissue disorders, joint pain, isometric exercises are also a viable option to exercise and build muscle without damaging the joints. There are 5 distinct benefits of isometric exercises over isotonic exercises, and I'm going to go through them with you very quickly, and then we'll get on to the exercise. there's no joint motion when you're doing this. So when you contract a muscle and the joints do not move, that means there's no shearing forces of the joints. And many people that have osteoarthritis or joint damage need to strengthen their joints to support the joints, but yet it hurts too much to actually move the joint. Thus, isometric exercise are a great way to exercise the muscle without harming the joint. The second benefit of isometric exercise is that the strength improvement does not occur just at the angle that you are doing the exercise. There is carryover into other ranges of motion. So if a person has pain during a certain position, you could back off that position, exercise in an isometric fashion, and they will gain strength in that painful area. There's a misconception that isometrics only strengthen you at that angle, and that is simply not true. The third benefit is that it strengthens connective tissue. So when people have tendon problems, ligament problems, they may have a disease where they have joint laxity, isometric exercise is a very important component of their rehabilitation because it strengthens the connective tissue. The fourth benefit of isometric exercise is people do not get delayed onset muscle soreness. One of the problems with lifting weights is usually the eccentric or lowering component of the weightlifting causes connective tissue damage. It causes soreness the next day. Many people don't like that. And so isometrics are a viable option to gain strength without that soreness that they feel the next day. The fifth benefit, of course, is that when they do research on people that have high blood pressure, isometric exercise is a great option to exercise and improve people's blood pressure. In fact, certain studies have shown that depending on the patient population, isometric exercise works better than even cardiovascular exercise or weight training or high intensity interval training, which I know a lot of people just want to do. Now, with all these advantages, you think, why isn't everybody doing it? The number one reason why people do not do isometrics is because there really is no way to measure how much strength you're doing. So anyone can fake at isometrics and act as if they're trying when they're really not trying.
It was lovely.
Wait, you faked it?
Pretty good, huh?
The moaning, straining, effort, lactic acid?
Fake, 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 fake.
So you need to have some type of measuring device in order to know that you're putting out enough pressure when you're doing the isometric so that you can get the benefits of strength training and connective tissue training, but also blood pressure. So I got this product called Isomax, and it's a really cool thing because it has a measuring device where you can know how many pounds of pressure that you're using or how many kilograms. It measures time, it measures maximum pressure, and it also does the averages. It also came with this book. This is an interesting book called The Ultimate Isometrics Manual, and this is something worth reading. I'll put links down below in the description of where I got this. It is really cool. So with weight training, you know if you're lifting a 20-pound dumbbell and then 6 months later you're lifting a 40-pound dumbbell, you know you've improved in your strength. But with isometrics, kind of traditional isometrics, you don't know if you're improving your strength other than if you can hold something longer or if you can do a more detailed or difficult isometric exercise. But with an Isomax, you're able to measure the pressure that you're using when you're pulling or pressing on the machine. So let's go home. I'm gonna take you into my pain cave. Let's show you a workout that I do and see if it's something that you would like to try for your blood pressure. All right, we're in my garage. This is the tool that I've been using. There's a plate that you stand on. Instead of a chain, there's a rope, and it's got numbers on it. And I think the reason why they're using this rope instead of a chain, because a chain would work just as good, is because probably for shipping, it's a lot cheaper to send this versus a chain. And then this is the main bar, and I'll show you how it works. There's a power button, up and down, lock feature, a time. You could figure out what the maximum amount of weight that you've pushed is, how to load it, averages, stuff like this. So right now it's in pounds. You can change it. Let's see, how do you change it here? Okay, you could measure it in kilograms or pounds. I'm gonna do pounds because that's how we do it on this side of the pond. You could set the time. You can have 6 seconds, you could do 7 seconds. You can set it up to whatever you want. I'm gonna keep it at 6 seconds. You could do your maximum, find out what your maximum is, averages, and I'll show you how this works. So here's how my workout is going to work. I'm gonna set the timer for 6 seconds, and I'm going to, as I apply pressure on the instrument, I'm gonna ramp up. So I'm not gonna just explode into a maximum contraction. I'm gonna slowly build up my strength until I'm hitting a maximum contraction. Once it does that, then it's gonna time me for 6 seconds. I'm gonna do intervals of 6 seconds. I'm personally today probably gonna do about 6 cycles of that, or 6 sets of 6 seconds, for a total of 36 seconds of maximal effort. My goal right now is to increase my strength without creating hypertrophy of the muscles. So for my connective tissue, it's not necessarily for blood pressure personally, but you could use this for blood pressure. If you set the timer for longer periods of time, like for a tendinopathy, most recommendations are 30 seconds to 45 seconds, you're not gonna get as much of a maximum contraction, because you can't do a maximum contraction for 40 seconds. You have to lower the intensity down. So because I'm looking for mainly strength changes right now, I'm just gonna do it for 6 seconds. Also, you'll see me doing this before I do a contraction, let's say of the biceps. I'm gonna tighten my entire body. So it's a full body contraction. And most importantly, so that you don't see me pass out, I'm going to breathe during the entire contraction. All right. Let's get it on. Exercise number 1 is going to be a row. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this up against my feet. So the plate is up against my feet. And then here we go. Okay, so that's 1. So what I'm doing is this as hard as I humanly can. I'm keeping my whole body braced as I pull, and I'm trying to focus on the muscles that I'm trying to work, which are the back of the deltoids, the rhomboids, the lower scap stabilizers. Just getting in a position. Got the timer set. Take a deep breath in. So I have the timer on. That sends me the timer, and then I could just, for curiosity's sake, more than anything, just hit the max. And I did 171 pounds. So as I do the reps, I want to make sure I'm kind of hitting that target of whatever my max is. So if I notice through the sets I'm starting to get lower and lower, I'm starting to fatigue. Timer's set. All right, so that was 164, so that's less. So this time I'm gonna try to do a little bit more. What was that? That was number 3. The hardest part about doing any type of exercise is remembering what rep you're on, right? All right, that was 176. So now I'm on target. It's surprisingly hard to do isometric exercise with a strong contraction, because it doesn't feel the same. You don't get really a burn like with that lactic acid or lactate that builds up in your muscles, but you definitely think you're putting out an effort. It's more mentally taxing, that you have to mentally get into the game. Get my body positioned. Okay, that one sucked. That was 155. I could do better than that. So that was the last one for the rows. We're gonna kill it. Gotta kill it. All right, so now I'm starting to fatigue. So that's 6 reps. So I like to alternate between a pressing motion and a pulling motion, because it just makes it a little bit easier to handle. I don't want to do all pressing motions and then try to do all pulling motions. that would make it very difficult and fatiguing. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand on it. I want to see where I want my pressing action. About right here, 90 degrees. Number 25. 5. Okay, that was press number 1. That was 73 pounds. So now, assuming that that is going to be my baseline, I'm going to try to beat that on the next one or the next 5. Now again, one of the things you're not seeing is I'm tightening my thighs, tightening my glutes, tightening my core in order to make sure that my body's solid. So I'm pushing against a solid foundation rather than caving in and hurting yourself with your back. So I'm going to get in position, the position I want. I'm going to take a deep breath in, tighten my thighs, my core, my glutes. Take another deep breath in and press. Now that time I did 85. So now that's good. That's going to be my new benchmark. $84.2. So again, one of the features I like is that it says 84.6. So now I know my goal is, motivation-wise, I'm going to try to beat that on the next rep. And so if you didn't have this measuring device and also just a timer right here, you could kind of mentally cheat. And that's the advantage of just a tool like this. All right, 2 more. Now is when it's starting to get fatiguing. Regardless of whether you're using this for blood pressure or for strength gains or to rehabilitate an injury, all the principles of training are the same. You're just adding this isometric contraction to it, maximal contraction. And so because I'm looking for strength changes right now, I'm going to rest a long time because I want to be able to not be tired so that I can give a maximal effort. If you put the sets too close together, then you get fatigued and you start to diminish the amount of power that you can produce. One of the most famous people that used this type of training was Bruce Lee, and that was one small dude. I think he was 135 pounds, probably one of the most powerful athletes. Funny story, as a child, my friends and I would argue endlessly about who could beat Bruce Lee. Could Chuck Norris do it? And what was that movie? I think it was called Enter the Dragon, where Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee got in a fight. And it was one of the most iconic fight scenes ever. And of course, you know, Bruce Lee won. It was a Bruce Lee movie. We were like, no, that could never happen. Not in real life. And look who all the jokes are about now, about Chuck Norris. Good joke. When Chuck Norris does push-ups, he's not pushing up from the ground. He's pushing the ground down. Always love those jokes. Chuck Norris is still alive. Isn't that amazing? So, and I think Bruce Lee, I think he had an aneurysm or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So my power is starting to level out right now. It's about 63.4. So I got one more set and then we'll move on to a different exercise. All right, last one. And here's where you know it's the last one. So you can just give it your all, especially those last 2 seconds. Maximum contraction, baby, as they say. Oh, God. I just didn't have it in me. That was 79. All right, now I did a press, now I'm gonna do a pull. Let's do biceps.
workout complete.
Now, I'm not being paid to say anything good about this product. This is not a sponsored video. In fact, I'm the one that contacted the company and said, hey, I think I like your product. You want me to do a video about it? Let me just get an okay. And they said, sure. So they sent me some stuff and sent me information to learn more about it. But I've used isometrics in the past, mainly on patients to help them rehabilitate injuries that they've occurred. And one of the problems is that you can't measure anything. And so one of the things I like about this, in particular, this Isomax, is you can measure how much pressure you're using on the thing. It's got a timing feature, which when I do isometrics, I have to sit there and count. Well, when the machine goes and beeps at you, you know you've done it for the amount of seconds that you want to hold it for, whether it's 6 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or 2 minutes. I can see myself using this in my office to measure and test people on their isometric strength to see if the treatment is working. I think that'd be a really cool thing to use. Lastly, I'm not one of those YouTubers that's gonna tell you to subscribe and click the button down below and give me a thumbs up. To be honest, I don't care. I just thought this would be an interesting thing for people with blood pressure problems and connective tissue problems and people trying to learn about isometrics, and maybe you'll get something out of it. So, all right, let's go.